Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And I'm sure you're looking to your right, left, depending on what your screen looks like, and saying, that doesn't look like Santoki Nagilendran. What is going on? Well, as the title of the video says, we're here to talk about the Max60. If you are if you're a cricket fan, a proper cricket fan, or if you are primarily a cricket fan who focuses on cricket within the Caribbean region, I'm fairly certain in the last few weeks or so, or month or so, you've heard the term Max60, and you've at least cast a cursory look or done some reading on the tournament that is going to be starting in the Cayman Islands on the 18th of August through to the 25th of August. And with me to talk about it is a familiar face to Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You will have seen him come on the show before, usually to talk about Cool and Smooth. Dario Barthley, of course, is the person on the other side of the screen, but he would have spoken about kind of the organisation and running of Cool and Smooth out of Antigua. Dario is heavily involved in that tournament, and of course, though, some of you will know that he's been heavily involved in the past, working with Cricket West Indies in the kind of media section of Cricket West Indies over the last few years. But he has moved on to pastures new, and is currently involved, as you can see by his title, as the CEO of Max60 Caribbean. And Dario and I were talking a few days ago, and I said, come on the show, because I don't know enough to speak to the CCP audience to say, this is what Max60 is all about. And if I can get a stakeholder on who can kind of talk about the tournament, why it exists, why it's in the Caymans, future plans, so on and so forth, Dario was the best person to come on. So Dario, after that lengthy intro, how are you doing?
I'm good, Machel. It's good to see you again. And
Undoubtedly.
Thanks to the viewers for having me once again, even though I'm in a different capacity.
Well, you know what? So this is going to be really interesting, this conversation, because you haven't given me... It's not like I'm having this conversation with you and I know all the answers already. This is very much as almost instructive for me as it will be for the viewers in terms of understanding this tournament and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, it's got the title Max60. It's in the Cayman Islands. And I should just point out, for those who don't know, it has, Dario, got a plethora of international talent playing. At Edgbaston about 2 weeks ago, maybe even 10 days ago, believe it or not, I was sitting in the media room with Carlos Brathwaite, and he was telling me that he was going to be flying out to Cayman soon to be playing in the Max60 tournament, etc. So we were talking about the competition then. But looking at the roster list, you've got David Warner. I'm just going to pick out some names. David Warner, Evan Lewis, Colin de Granholm, Sikandar Raza, Alex Hales, Dwayne Bravo, Ravi Bopara, Sunil Narain, Brathwaite, as I said. So there's a plethora, Logan Van Beek. There's a plethora of talent, both domestically, because I think it's important to state that as well. It's not a tournament which is just for international stars. There's both domestic Cayman talent as well as obviously international stars who are coming over. And it's a T10 type tournament, which is probably why it can be packed in so quickly within the space of a week. But Dario, let's take it from the beginning. What's the origins of this tournament? What's the idea? What's the principles?
Well, I would say the origins of this tournament are kind of just discussions between myself and quite a few other stakeholders around, how we could bring a product to the Caribbean that, yes, is beneficial from a business perspective, but also serves some type of purpose. And one of the reasons why I was so eager to come on the show, actually, Machel, is because, I'm an avid follower of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And I know that even in the past, you and myself have had discussions in regard to franchise leagues, how much of them are popping up, and what the relevance behind of them. And even after some of those discussions and doing some research and just thinking about how this works for everyone involved, obviously, what we have to realize is that this may be another franchise tournament for some players because they're accustomed to the circuit. But for the 15 Caymanian players and for the 5 other Caymanian players that will be attached to franchises, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And considering the landscape of cricket in some countries within the Caribbean region, not within the remit of Cricket West Indies, but within the Caribbean region, you just have to make sure that you package it for the fans as well. And considering that T10 is a format that is gaining some credence throughout the world with leagues popping up in different places, almost played everywhere in the Caribbean now. If you think that, I remember one time I was at the ICC meeting actually, and we were talking about the way the game is growing. And one of the big takeaways was the fact that the game is growing in terms of more people becoming interested, more people becoming engaged, more people going to matches in the shorter format. Whereas everyone obviously still recognized the need for the longer format to obviously work on your skills and it being the pinnacle of cricket. And no one was discrediting that at all. But the shorter format is more packageable for an audience, whether that's via broadcast, via streams, or in stadia. And we think that it's a good way to get something started within these countries. So this is not the end all be all of the whole BMP Sports idea behind how we're approaching cricket in these islands. It's that we want to improve the cricket, but we want to do it gradually. And there are ways that we could bring funding into the cricket. We could assist with the facilities now that will help them later. So there will be T20 tournaments. There will be longer format tournaments. It's building a sustainable base so that we're able to impact cricket in these islands. A big part of what I want to see coming out of this is the national teams getting better through having better facilities, through having 20 players that are able to speak to, train with, play with some of the best players and coaches in the world, and through obviously being able to earn a living through cricket as well. Most of these guys would have never been paid to actually play cricket. Now they're a franchise cricket player on a team with Dwayne Bravo or Sunil Narayan, the IPL MVP, or David Warner, right? So I think that it's very impactful depending on what level you look at it from, and that kind of informed our decision of taking this step of trying to go into these countries that obviously have talent but don't have the resources necessarily to put together a proper cricketing structure throughout the year and assist them with that, while obviously being able to satisfy ourselves on the business side so that we can continue and invest more into the product.
How much government involvement did you need to be able to get this off the ground? Because you're bringing the tournament to Cayman. Obviously, Cayman, I've never been Cayman, but from what I know from family and friends have been, there's a massive kind of international, what do I want to say here, community within the Cayman Islands.
Very diverse community.
Yeah. So how did you engage with the government to get this off the ground?
Well, the Cricket Association here, who we're obviously doing the tournament in tandem with, were very helpful in terms of making those connections, even from the first time I visited and I pitched the idea to them and we spoke about the possibility. They introduced me to 2 people from a government point of view who have just been great in terms of associating themselves with the product, believing in it from the onset, and ensuring that they make the right connections and calls that allow us to operate in the best way possible to make sure that it is a success. And those are the Minister of Sport, Minister Isaac Rankin, and the Minister of Tourism, Minister Kenneth Bryan. I met them both on my first visit, and they were very accommodating, even at the point where we weren't sure the dates of the tournament, when it would be played here, that type of thing. They were very accommodative in terms of putting me in touch with the right people and guiding me along the right path so we could get everything done in the proper manner to operate.
You're going to be hosting the tournament out of the Jimmy Powell Oval. I don't know anything about cricket in the Cayman Islands, but have you had to do like significant pitch preparation or facilities preparation to get it up to a standard that can host the tournament, or was it already good enough to go in and of itself?
No, I mean, as I alluded to before, generally any cricket facility could always use a little bit extra work, a little bit of an upgrade. And our mandate is really to ensure that we're doing things locally that benefit the cricket structure, even when the tournament is not being played. So the Jimmy Powell Oval, when we saw it first, yes, it's a very good facility based on the level of cricket that is played here and the cricket activity here, the quantity of cricket and the quality of cricket that is played here. But in order to bring, these players and engage the type of people that we wanted to for this tournament, there was still a significant amount of work that needed to be done. So over the past maybe 2.5 months, we have had a curator overseeing preparation of the pitch. It's a curator from Adelaide, Australia, and he's just ensuring that the right things go into the pitch and go into the outfield so that it's at what we consider to be a pretty close to world-class level by the time the players arrive here on the 16th. And that's been going very well in terms of the field preparation and the pitch preparation and the facility in general. There are a lot of local contractors, I couldn't even start to name them, that have been assisting Cayman Cricket in putting together the facilities that we need in order to run the tournament, and it's going pretty well so far. So I'm pretty excited about the upcoming edition, especially because it's going to be the first, and we kind of get an opportunity to see how everything works and make sure it's a sustainable product going forward.
Now, people will be intrigued by some of the names of these teams. So we've got the Boca Raton Trailblazers, the Caribbean Giants, Grand Cayman Stingrays, Miami Lions, and New York Strikers. Now, New York Strikers, I believe, are also a franchise that already operate out of the T10 Abu Dhabi tournament. So
Yeah.
I guess it would be fair to say that it's not like you've pitched up in Cayman and it's just 6 random franchises that have just kind of existed out of nowhere. There is kind of similar to how, like, in the CPL you have Barbados Royals who are linked to Rajasthan Royals. Like, there is some crossover here.
Machel, the thing is, the structure of cricket, as I think we have spoken about before, is changing slightly.
Yeah.
And just like in majority of sports where it's franchise tournaments that are played for the most part of the year. And then there's obviously international tournaments that people join up for. It's kind of turning into that type of structure. Obviously, in some countries, it's easier for the players to play more international cricket, but the reality of the situation that we're facing in the Caribbean and in the associate nations is that sometimes it's the players are choosing to play more franchise cricket throughout the year, or even players that are not playing for the West Indies because there's not that much regional cricket. They're playing franchise cricket as well. So New York Strikers, for instance, they're building a franchise team brand. So they have teams they do have a team in the Abu Dhabi T10, which I think they're the champions of currently, if not the season before that. They play as the Colombo Strikers in the Sri Lanka T20 tournament, which has just passed. And they want to take that brand throughout and have that brand associated with quality, associated with excellence. So once we went out to the market to look for franchise owners, they were some of the owners that said right away, yes, we want to be associated with this. They want to be associated with it, not just because of this tournament, but because of the plans for the brand in the future. But just to address directly the names of the teams, that's up to the franchises. So obviously, when you're running a business, a franchise like that, you want to ensure that you're marketing according to your business plan. And they would have different reasons for why they chose those names. But in terms of the credibility of the franchises, I think they're all owned by persons with significant interest in cricket. And our business model is to make sure that they enjoy being a part of the Max60 Caribbean, and they're able to look at this as a favorable investment. So it's for us now to take the trust that they have put in us and execute the tournament to the best of our ability so that we can do that.
People watching this will, well, certainly some people watching this will want to know where can they watch it. I presume there's various different streaming outlets, but is the package together in terms of, depending on which part of the world you're in, the best, like, is it things like fan code, or like what's the best way that people can watch this tournament?
Yeah, so this is gonna be a widely broadcasted tournament. So we'll be with pretty notable networks in each territory. India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Australia, New Zealand, the Caribbean, North America. We'll have all of those territory covered with broadcasters. And I'm not sure that an announcement has been made in terms of that as yet. So I don't want to get myself in trouble by being the one to break the news, but I'll make sure that when that announcement is made, that I do send it out to you so that you can update anyone that does follow the channel, or even if they don't normally follow the channel and they're watching this because of Max60 Caribbean, I'm recommending that they do follow the channel so that when the broadcast information becomes available, that they'll be amongst the first to get it.
No doubt, no doubt. When I went on the website earlier on for Max60, at the top, so it said Max60 Cayman, but then it said Max60 Bahamas. So is that I have to assume that that's already part of the vision, that the next stop on the road then is to then go to the Bahamas next, or am I wrong to make that assumption?
No, you're totally correct. We're working with Bahamas Cricket to bring Max60 to the Bahamas. Those are the two countries that we have earmarked as our starting points, and we have signed agreements with the cricket associations and met with the government and spoken about the plans that we want to implement for the facilities and so forth. So there will be Max60 Bahamas as well. We can't necessarily give dates as yet, but the structure of Max60 Caribbean is to create a sustainable stream of income for a certain level of cricket player. The Caribbean is very, very rich with talent, but not only the Caribbean. If you look at our rosters, you see young players from Australia, you see young players from Nepal, and so forth. And that again speaks to the significance of the tournament, even outside of the traditional cricketing structure. Because if I'm a cricket player from an associate nation, currently, more than likely, I need to have a job, right? Because cricket is not paying me enough where I can be a full-time cricketer and I could use my time to work on my skills so that I get better at cricket and I earn more money from the sport. I need to have a job because I need to be taking home an income. They don't get the opportunities in these big leagues. So Sunil Narayan, Dwayne Bravo, Alex Hales, David Warner, Sikandar Raza, these guys are great for ratings, and these guys play cricket with passion. So they'll be here, they'll be fully engaged in the tournament. And obviously, these are the guys that, you know, when you advertise, you can put their faces because they're familiar faces on the T20 circuit. But then when you look at the rest of the roster, these are guys that are extremely hungry for opportunities. These are guys from associate nations that play not that many tournaments a year, don't get that many opportunities outside of where they're from to play cricket, and they're waiting for these type of opportunities. So if we put ourselves in a situation where next year we're able to have 5 Max60 Caribbeans, for instance, right? And the associate nation player is able to earn is able to play all those tournaments and earn a significant amount of money from cricket, considering those may only be 10 days out of his time and the year is 365 days. He still has 315 days to work on his craft, play whatever national team cricket does come up. While he's playing in these tournaments, he would have met so many players and so many coaches and been able to prove his talent. So he may now get an opportunity in a CPL. He may go to a GT20. He may go to a Sri Lanka T20. He now becomes a full-time cricketer, right? And no one can convince me that it's not better to spend 10 days playing T10 cricket than doing any other profession, right? If you want to be a professional cricketer, right? If you're around cricketers, you're around a cricket structure, a professional tournament, you have good coaches there, you have good players there that you can ask questions, then 10 days in a T10 tournament is not going to hurt your cricket more than just not playing cricket at all, right? So it's creating an opportunity to have more professional cricketers at a certain level so that these guys can now grasp those opportunities and become $1 million IPL players, right? If that is what their goal is. But it's an opportunity.
Would it be too simplistic or naive to say that the first the first phase is to get to the associations / islands in the region that we don't commonly, it sounds bad to say commonly associate with cricket, but it's not like Bahamas don't have cricket. It's not like Cayman don't have cricket, but yeah. I'm talking like places like Belize, which some people don't even realize is in the Caribbean. So like places like Belize, places like Turk and Caicos, who in the kind of confines of the Cricket West Indies structure, no one's really talking about those kind of places, but they're in the Caribbean, and people on those particular islands surely must play cricket. So is there a deliberate strategy to go to those type of islands first before branching out to the obvious bigger Caribbean islands, if that makes sense?
Well, the aim is to grow the game, Machel. That's what the aim is. While being a sustainable business, we want to grow the game of cricket within the Caribbean and Americas region. And that's kind of my mandate as CEO. So the short answer to that question would be yes. That would kind of be the first phase, but there's definitely a long answer to that question. Within the Caribbean region, it's a slightly different structure because we already have the CPL and the 60, right? So they're responsible for that level of franchise cricket within the countries that are operated under the CWI structure. And we very much appreciate and respect that because we think that that has built the platform for some of the things that obviously we would like to do. You know, people here want to see a CPL. I'm in the Cayman Islands, by the way. People here want to see a CPL type of atmosphere. They've been watching that from afar. And because they're not traditional West Indies, it would be hard to replicate something like that here normally. So we're creating that avenue for them. This is just as exciting for a Caymanian as a CPL or even maybe as the past World Cup was for some West Indians.
Have you, I mean, there's pretty big stars. Is there a benefit to the fact that we alluded to it earlier on, but is there a benefit to hosting the tournament in Cayman because of its multicultural international community? Like, have you sensed that there'll be an easier buy-in? I don't know if it's too simplistic to say that. Have you sensed that there'll be an easier buy-in because so many people from so many different places live in Cayman? Or is it a case of let's see once the tournament starts how many people flock in to come and watch?
We sense that, but after the fact. The appetite for cricket was definitely a consideration at the beginning. And we did obviously look up the national team stats, how many matches were played here, spoke to the association. They told us about in the past when they brought some of the greats here, like Curtly Ambrose and Courtney Walsh and Brian Lara, and how many people came out. So we do know that there was an appetite. But from being here, from positioning myself here, just to meet people and obviously take a further assessment of the landscape, I've realized that it's a really big international community. There are a lot of, for instance, there's a medical center here called Health City. It's 500 people from India, right? And obviously in India, cricket is huge. So we're thinking that now that we realize the landscape that we are dealing with, that it's actually an easier buy-in than we thought when we made the decision to have the tournament here. There's a lot of people that have been reaching out, especially within the last week, and just saying to me, how can I get involved? What can I do? This is huge for Cayman Islands. Thank you guys for bringing this here. Let's make sure that it's good. Let's make sure people want to come back. But as you mentioned, the early considerations, it was really, yes, this is a Caribbean country that plays cricket and has potential, but they do need investment. And also, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, Machel, to be honest with you. So if you bring, people go all over the place to play cricket tournaments these days. So when you bring somebody to the Cayman Islands to play a cricket tournament, it's a place that they'll want to bring their family for every future edition. They'll say to you, I need to be there. And it's a place that some of them may even end up investing or having property, because it's that type of community, it's that type of environment. And I have no doubt that with the assistance that we've gotten from the government, that they're going to put themselves in a good place to take advantage of those type of opportunities. And it will be a relationship that will kind of work for everyone.
Well, listen, all I can share with you before we wrap this one up, to show you that this tournament, because there'll be like anything that comes new into any environment. This doesn't have to be cricket; could be anything. There'll be those who are skeptical. So there'll be those who are initially skeptical, and who will be converted once they see it. But here's an interesting anecdote, Dario. Well, that's the side for me to wrap the show. But here's an interesting anecdote. When we posted recently about the tournament, we had messages from the Nepalese community, because I think you've got Rohit Podel. I think that's the guy. I'm sure that's the person I'm talking about, the young Nepalese guy who they all talk about. The number of Nepalese people who added our account immediately going, Rohit's going there. This is huge. This is massive. We're going to be watching this tournament, so on and so forth. And I was like, oh, snap. So just as a little anecdote, I think that answers or kind of confirms that point you're making about Rohit isn't, because of the size of the international team he plays for, he's not at a level yet where he can command the big kind of tournaments. But if it's not for tournaments like this, then he can't also showcase his ability on a regular enough basis. So I do get your point when I kind of articulate that anecdote that this is what tournaments like this are ultimately for.
Yeah. Machel, this is why you're a good podcast host, because you give me an opportunity to speak about the Nepalese cricketers and the way that people follow Nepal cricket. I had no idea even the amount of people in Nepal the amount of people in Nepal generally, but the amount of people in Nepal that were interested in cricket until, the former West Indies batting coach, Monty Desai, is now their head coach.
Head coach, yeah.
So myself and Monty have always remained in contact. Monty's a really good guy. So just talking to him after he took up the role, he was explaining to me, some of the scenes that he's experienced in cricket there. And he sent me a few YouTube links to have a look at some of the crowds that they get at the games and that type of thing. And I was so surprised. I was so surprised. Nepalese people are very, very serious about cricket. And I think, as evidenced by some of their performances in recent tournaments, they're getting better. And it's something that they're working really hard on and investing a lot of time, effort, and resources into. So I expect to see a lot of them getting into even more of the of these leagues next year, more franchise leagues. But the following that they carry with them, Machel, it's ridiculous. We have two Nepalese in the teams actually, Dipendra Airy, and my apologies if I'm mispronouncing names, and then Rohit Paudel. So we have the two of them coming to play the tournament, and the amount of comments that I've seen from Nepal in terms of how they can access the matches, how they can get team merch, and
I was going to say, I was about to say, you best start doing team merch, man.
No, they're really serious about the cricket, and that's what we want to see. Nepal as well as an associate nation, and one of the really good ones over the past couple of years. And I think that, I'm not necessarily the technical cricket person, but I think that it's fair to say that Monty is doing a great job. And I am in contact with Monty and quite a few of the officials over there in Nepal. And I'm sure that you'll get probably a West Indies player that has been to the recent A tour in Nepal. And I would encourage you to ask them about the atmosphere and ask them about the hospitality, because the Nepalese really go all out for cricket. And it can only do well for them going forward.
Listen, Dario, thank you as ever for coming on the show. That's been really helpful and instructive to understand the kind of origins, purpose, and kind of next steps for the Max60. But ultimately, this inaugural tournament kicks off in Cayman. Again, for those listening, that will be on the 18th of August through to the 25th of August. So do stay locked in. Max60, let me just get the website again because I was on it earlier on. So Max60 people, if you want to go to the website, hold on 1 second. If you want to go to the website, go to max60.co, and you will find the website there to get tickets. If you're in Cayman, obviously, the fixture list, etc. Dario will share with me once the news is out in terms of broadcast partners and so on and so forth. But obviously, if you're on that website, it'll be shared there as well. But we will do our best to share some content through the CCP channels so people lock in. Dario, last words to you.
Machel, thank you as usual for accommodating me and talking about Max60 Caribbean. It's a product that I really believe in. It's something that I think can, it could form a safety net for cricketers. It could kind of give us more options to choose from, not only in these countries and in the Caribbean, but throughout the world. So we're putting a lot of work in to make sure that everything is ready for that first ball on the 18th of August. Looking forward to seeing everyone here. Most people know how to reach me, or you could put my social media handles as well if anyone wants to talk about the tournament, whether from investment, sponsorship, VIP ticket packages. That's something that we're pushing because we want the experience to be amazing for everyone that does come along to watch these matches, and whatever other ways people want to get involved. So looking forward to talking to more people about Max60 in the coming 2 weeks, and even more so looking forward to the tournament itself. Thank you, Machel, and thanks to the CCP viewers.
No worries, Dario. So thanks everyone for listening and locking in as ever. More content coming this week. I don't need to keep repeating. I'll be in Trinidad from tomorrow. So hit me up, people, if you're in Trinidad, and stay locked in for more content soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.